Margaret and Glenn Williams were overjoyed by the decision which was handed down late this afternoon in the Equal Opportunities Commission in Sydney.
I think the smile on my face says it all. I'm really pleased. I really am.
Speaking from the office of the Legal Aid Commission where they were told of the news, the couple said they felt they had finally been treated fairly.
At the beginning, when it all happened, we didn't know which way to go. So luckily the Legal Aid Commission New South Wales backed us and took us in hand and let us down the path.
Margaret Williams had taken her employer, the Newcastle Star newspaper owned by regional publishers, to the Commission, claiming she'd been discriminated against because her husband had left the Star and started working with a rival newspaper, the Newcastle Post. The Commission found she'd been denied promotion and forced to accept a transfer because of her marriage. However, a further claim that she'd been discriminated against because she was female was dismissed. While this afternoon's decision is a victory for Margaret and Glenn Williams, it's also a finding which will have major ramifications for employers throughout the state.
Employers can't really just assume that they can make decisions about their employees without considering the circumstances in which they work.
As well as receiving $10,000 in damages for pain, suffering and loss, Margaret Williams must be reinstated to her old job as credit manager with the Newcastle Star within 28 days. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
A giant 295-tonne stern section, complete with engine, was gingerly lowered onto a barge today for the trip to Adelaide. There it will be assembled into the fourth of Australia's 6 new Collins-class subs. 2 are already undergoing Navy sea trials, the third was launched last week. Meanwhile, the stern sections for subs 5 and 6 sit in an eerily quiet Tomago shipyard awaiting their turn for transport. At its peak, the engineering workshop employed 120 on the submarine contract. Now only a skeleton staff haunts the huge facility. While Newcastle's role in building Australia's new submarine capability is complete, there are still hopes the Tomago shipyard could be active again very soon. While details are confidential, the Australian Submarine Corporation, which owns the Tomago yard, is tendering for a new contract. The company will only say that it's engineering work for an Australian client. A decision on the contract should be known within 3 weeks. If successful, work could begin within 3 months. It's unlikely, however, that the shipyard will require a workforce measured in the hundreds. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Alison Newstead's body was found hidden under sheets of corrugated iron near Cessnock in October 1993, 7 days after she was reported missing. The cause of her death never determined. Detectives claimed Michael Self concealed her body, knowing her death was as a result of an abnormal cause, and that he did so to hinder police inquiries. Their case centred around the evidence of Roderick Rankin, at one time also a police suspect. After 20 minutes of deliberating, a jury in Newcastle District Court today rejected his claims of a conversation in which Self had virtually admitted being involved in Alison's death, the jury finding Self not guilty of concealing her body.
Very relieved that it's all finished, that I'm set free and innocent.
Today's verdict is another upsetting chapter for the Newstead family. It's almost 4 years since Alison's body was found, and they are still no closer to finding out what happened to her. So distraught by the verdict, her family left the court within seconds of it being handed down.
I feel very sorry for them people, for their disappearance of their daughter. I wouldn't like it myself.
The inquiry into Alison Newstead's death is now expected to go back to the coroner. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Put another spray on, please.
With builders moving into the old National Park Bowling Clubhouse in Newcastle 4 weeks ago, the new disability centre is rapidly taking shape. The Hunter organisation Life Without Barriers is behind the unique project, which will offer disabled people a range of services under the one roof.
This will be a one-stop shop for all people with disabilities. So we're hoping that this will be a prototype for great things to happen, and we can spread this all over Australia.
The group will help disadvantaged people to find jobs and housing, as well as encourage them to play sport and get involved in the performing arts. The $800,000 project has been made possible by financial support from the business community. Impressed both by the concept and the centre's ability to attract the corporate dollar, the federal government has expressed interest in setting up similar ventures across Australia.
Their response was wonderful. They thought what we were doing was exceptional, and we're hoping that they'll be able to assist us in the near future.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.
Well, I'd say the secret is toleration of each other.
Hip joint up. I put needles here to help, and because the nerve lines run in the hamstring and join up to the hip joint, which in turn joins to the disc areas. It is what acupuncture does. It really just stimulates the nerves. It helps. We've worked out it helps about 6 or 7 or 8 weeks. I generally can get most of the players back on the football field, say, within a week, at the max.
Wow. The most common sight in Newcastle this long weekend won't be the Easter Bunny or chocolate eggs, but rather no vacancy signs outside hotels and motels.
A few rooms are available on different nights throughout Easter, but by and large Newcastle has a very high, probably its highest occupancy figure for some years.
With an action-packed bicentenary calendar, the city is gearing up for around 10,000 visitors, estimated to spend $4 million locally. Events such as the National Brass and Concert Band Championships alone will attract 3,000 people, while the National Square Dance Convention will draw another 2,000. Traditionally a quiet time for Newcastle, Barry Jones says the benefits will be enormous, not only for the local tourism industry, but for business in general.
When people come to a particular destination for a conference or a meeting, there is a greater tendency to come back in their vacation time because they've discovered something new and they want to share it with their friends and relatives.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.
Hundreds gathered at church services throughout the Hunter today to remember the true Christian meaning behind Good Friday, Christ's death on the cross. People were urged to remember that there is more to Easter than chocolate eggs, encouraged to see it as a time of forgiveness and hope, symbolised by the final salvation of Jesus. Meanwhile, the warm weather attracted scores of others to beaches throughout the region, families glad to capture a last-minute taste of summer before the end of daylight saving and colder autumn weather. Emma Ossian, NBN News. Setting up camp in the grounds outside Merewether High School kept the young scouts busy today. The area transformed into a sea of tents. The theme of the Jamboree, which involves 650 scouts, is Newcastle's bicentenary.
Well, normally we go and hide out in the bushes somewhere and enjoy the nature that way, whereas this time we thought, seeing it's Newcastle's bicentennial year, we'd be part of that celebration.
The Scouts have travelled from Sydney in the Blue Mountains in the south and from Taree in the north. There are even several international guests, this trio travelling from Denmark.
We saw it back on the internet and we tried to see if anyone was responding for us, asking if we could join this camp. We decided that as we were Scouts back home, we might as well try to figure out and meet some Scouts here.
The camp continues through until Tuesday, with plenty of activities planned, including field trips to several local attractions. Emma Ossian, NBN News. It's an old-fashioned form of dance, but one which has survived through the ages and still attracts both the old and young from throughout the world. This weekend sees a meeting of square dancers from across Australia, as well as some from as far as Canada and Japan.
Oh, it's just friendship and everybody comes.
This afternoon, last-minute preparations were made for tonight's grand opening, the dancers taking to the floor for a full dress rehearsal. As well as the square dance, there was also the round dance and a form of tap dance. The convention begins at 7 o'clock tonight at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre.
Up and over and high onto the concrete wall. A sensational incident in Heat 3 of the Australian Speed Car Championship. There was a touch of wheels going into that corner.
It was only last year that the quiet little town was rocked by a wave of hold-ups and robberies in its shopping centre. Now residents fear for their safety in their own homes. Just after midnight, intruders broke into a house on Cessnock Road, bound the 68-year-old resident with a belt and telephone wire and took the place apart looking for money.
It's a pretty worrying thought to think that who's going to be next sort of thing.
During her hour-long ordeal, the woman was continually ordered to hand over money and only managed to get help next door when the intruders had left, taking a small amount of cash and an old rifle with them. Their victim was later treated in hospital and taken into the care of relatives. A continuing worry to Western residents is the small number of police stationed in the area.
Very nice lady. You wouldn't wish for a better person and somebody you wouldn't expect to be this to happen to, sort of thing. So.
Andrew Laub, NBN News. From his almost fully restored cathedral, Bishop Roger Hurft encouraged his congregation to take hold of a sense of renewal. In a world caught up in debate over euthanasia, unrest and the recent mass suicide of a religious cult in America, the bishop says Easter offers a powerful message of hope. Also at Newcastle's Catholic Cathedral, the Sacred Heart in Hamilton, latecomers found standing room only as worshippers packed in to count their blessings.
She's beautiful. She's beautiful.
It appears to be a winning combination. More police on the roads enforcing tougher infringement penalties. During the 4-day break, 4,000 motorists were pulled over for breath testing in the Hunter, 20 fined for exceeding the limit. 350 were booked for speeding, while 50 were caught not wearing seatbelts.
It's been pretty good. People tend to be a bit more patient. We haven't had the problem with drink driving.
The Upper Hunters track record has been one of the best in the state, with only 3 motorists registering over the legal alcohol limit out of the 2,000 pulled over. 120 were caught speeding. The threat of losing double demerit points during the 4-day period seems to have pressured motorists to apply the brakes.
The majority of people that we've pulled over are aware of it, and I think it's made them conscious of it, and I think it might have had an effect with it.
Late this afternoon, traffic in and out of Newcastle was flowing smoothly. Police are confident motorists can expect a comfortable run home. Vanessa Spark, NBN News. Spending the Easter break at school doesn't sound like much fun, but if you're a Cub, Scout or Adventurer, it was the best place to be. Newcastle's Merewether High has been playing host to this year's Easter Jamboree, an action-packed adventure including everything from a daring rock climb to the Flying Fox.
A good way to meet new people, to have fun and to enjoy yourself.
Meanwhile, spirits were high across town on the final day of this year's National Square Dance Convention, featuring the toe-tapping sounds of the latest in country music. The Easter event has been a big hit, featuring 38 different dance steps, from the Ferris wheel to the Load the Boat. But the swingers are looking forward to putting their feet up tonight when the convention wraps up.
You dance as much as you like or as least as you like. Your feet get very sore after a weekend like this, but it's good fun.
Next year's convention will be held in Adelaide.
Let's go!
But you might think about the helicopter.
Because it got in, if it got in here, it made a real...
Basically, people who are in now is down the Gold Coast, Miami, that are fast getting there. Our oldest launch in Australia.
They put it right up against the stage.
May Smith lives in Astor Street, Shortland, and her house is just metres away from one of Australia's busiest coal transport routes. She's one of hundreds of residents living with rail noise.
Your bed will shake and wake you up. It's like when earthquake, you know, the bang of the earthquake. Yeah. Well, that's what it sounds like through the night.
Port Waratah Coal Services is about to begin a $700 million expansion on Kooragang Island to almost double its capacity to 77 million tonnes a year. That will mean a bigger coal train fleet and more noise for residents. Rail noise activist Bob Bell has taken up the fight, launching an action in the Land and Environment Court against the PWCS expansion. He says an environmental impact statement did not cover the noise problems for residents living along the entire rail line.
I'm very upset that I've stopped progress in a way. I don't like stopping jobs, but the EIS is very deficient that it didn't include us as directed.
The Rail Access Corporation says it's looking at solutions to rail noise and will visit the Hunter later this year. The hearing will be heard in the Land and Environment Court over 4 days next month. Blake Doyle, NBN News. The federal government has promised the state $49 million in black spot funding by the year 2000. Today, Federal Transport Minister John Sharp paid the first instalment worth almost $12 million.
This is part of our commitment towards improving our roads, towards improving road safety and towards fulfilling election promises that...
The Hunter Valley and Central Coast have been big winners. Projects in the Gosford and Wyong council areas will account for almost half the $2.6 million allocated to the region. Much of the work will concentrate on building roundabouts and installing traffic lights. There was special praise for residents in the Ettalong area who raised $15,000 towards improvements along Ocean View Drive.
The Commonwealth in turn will be putting some $140,000 towards those 2 sites to upgrade those accident areas, and it's just an enormous tribute to the local Ettalong community that they...
It won't only be accident black spots which qualify for the money. Mr Sharp says 20% of Commonwealth black spot funding will go to projects where the community is concerned accidents could happen. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The Society has been serving the Maitland community since 1867, providing help to those in whatever type of need. Nowadays, it concentrates on providing hostel accommodation for the aged, those who are not yet in need of a nursing home but still are not able to satisfactorily look after themselves. 20 years ago, it had only 19 residents, housed entirely within the historic Benhome building. Since then, modern units have been added to the property and the population is now 79 with a waiting list as well. The purpose of today's ceremony was to give thanks to God for what Benhome has been able to give the community.
They're stripping, repairing and rebuilding, all in 22 hours. Working up some elbow grease, 51 apprentices are racing against the clock for a chance to take home a work skill title.
I've put in a lot of training, a lot of time, and I having a fair go.
I just want to sort of come down and hopefully get a lot of experience out of it, and if I finish around mid, I'll be happy.
Representing 27 regions across the nation, the Automotive Challenge tests the technical skills of each competitor across 5 categories. Gold medal winners are chosen from the auto body repair section, as well as the mechanics and painting divisions. Supported by employers and industry sponsors, the event's designed to fuel competitor confidence.
It's a great experience for the young people involved. They all enjoy it. The camaraderie of the competition is superb.
3 gold medal winners will be chosen on Sunday to represent Australia at the Skill Olympics in Switzerland. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.